that we saw that above 90 degrees. Here in Cuyahoga County, in 2020, it was 19. By 2040, it's going to be projected to be 34 days that we're going to see above 90 degrees. By 2060, 53, and by 2080 is 71. So 71, that's getting close to at least 2 months out of the entire year that days are going to be above 90 degrees. And I grew up in Cuyahoga Falls in Akron area, and we did not grow up with any air conditioning at all. So when you're stuck in the housing, or stuck in our house, we can't escape that heat. So what would we do? We would go out to the other community places like Waterworks or the Lock or anywhere with the fountains, and it's really hard to escape that heat. And if that heat isn't coming down across night, you're still not getting relief from that. So those are some of the things that we're really concerned about, and how can we make the communities more resilient against these heat impacts, against these flood impacts and winter weather. So looking at the heat risk specifically, we also want to look at the infrastructure. So the infrastructure here is the red dots are the fire and police stations, and the blue dots are hospitals. So if there's any harmful effects, if those get damaged, those are the places that the community members heavily rely on. What is not shown on here is the areas that you guys are dependent on that we don't know about. We can look at this data down at OSU from our desks, but that's not telling us your guys' actual lived experiences or places that are super important to you and critical. Next slide, please. Heat risk, we can also see that that can be impacted by the impervious surfaces and tree canopy coverage. So the impervious surfaces, that's what Dr. Best was talking about. Those are the areas that, kind of the heat impacts and the heat effect of, blacktop, where a lot of the kids are playing, maybe at schools, maybe at parks. Where are those areas that it's just so hot because the sun is reflecting back the heat of that. And we can see definitely Cleveland. Sometimes we call it like there's just like a lot of concrete. So there, and then the tree canopy coverage as well. Northeast Ohio does have a lot of tree coverage, but there's a lot of areas, if you can see in the yellow, that they still aren't. And what we're trying to get information about is where is the heat really problematic? Where is it that we can try to mitigate some of that and mitigate the effects on children, elderly? It can exacerbate asthma. The air pollution can get worse with these rising temperatures as well. So that's some of the things that we can look at too. And then we have flood risk. So flood risk again, we can also see here these blue lines. Those are the actual waterways. And Bianca talked about the Kingsbury Bay, so that may be a problematic area that you guys specifically want to talk about. But in these scores, when we're calculating these consider both historic flooding, like what's already been documenting, building and population exposures based on the floodplain. So that's like the sea level rising. And also the social vulnerability conditions we talked about. So that's high poverty, high rates of children under the age of 5, elderly populations that just really can't escape these without additional help. And then we have the winter weather. Again, we know this, that's pretty common, but how can we mitigate against that? Is there any way that we can help combat that? A lot of times, in Northeast Ohio, climate change or these rising temperatures may not really impact us, and we're like, okay, it's great. We're not really seeing any changes because it's still cold. We're still getting snow. So to us, we may not actually be seeing it, but what we are seeing is the number of days that, less than 32 degrees, that's going to keep rising. Like historically, we've had a ton of those days. So if you can imagine those changes here in Northeast Ohio, imagine that across the country, which is even more south and closer to the equator. And in those areas, it's even more risky in the areas that have these social vulnerabilities too. Okay, so hopefully you guys have got a crash course on coastal resilience, climate resilience, to have some of these conversations. So we're going to do 2 activities. The first activity is a survey, and that's to get you guys' feedback about your personal experiences. What have you experienced with these hazards? Flooding, temperature. There's four different things on there. The winter, and you can do this one of two ways. The first way you can do is there's papers on each one of your tables. You can fill out these sheets. So that's the survey. So if on the first page it says, it says which, please choose which issues you feel your community has problems with or is not prepared for. Flooding, precipitation, extreme heat, extreme winter weather, or other. And then if you check mark one of those, there's additional pages where you can give additional details on that. And again, you can fill it out whatever your preference is. You can fill it out with pen and paper, or you can do it electronically with this QR code. You scan it with your phone, or if in your phone you want to go to the website, it's right down here, https colon backslash backslash arcgis slash 0hp9v0. If anybody has questions, we're going to be walking around. We're going to give you guys about 15-20 minutes to fill these out, and then we'll talk about these, and then we'll get into the last activity. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Do they have places where people can go and so you mean our cold weather plan and our warm weather plan? So I know in Cuyahoga County, particularly in Cleveland, a lot of the recreation centers are open if there is extreme weather. But when we're talking about unhoused communities year round, we really don't have a cold or warm weather plan for our unhoused communities. And that's one of the things that the Northeast Ohio Homeless Coalition has been working to address here in the city of Cleveland, is the fact that we have so many people who are unhoused, but we have nowhere for them to go in extreme temperatures, either extreme cold or extreme warm weathers or in the rain. Because like even today, the recreation centers are open, but they're not open for extended hours. So that means that if we start getting some really serious rain, then they have nowhere to go. So trying to make sure that we're kind of keeping up with Cleveland. But in other cities, they actually have places for folks to go. If there are places, but not people who work in that facility to stay there, can't there be an arrangement with police and fire to keep certain parts of those buildings open? I've asked these questions in Strongsville, and I've gotten kind of yeah, make. You know what? I don't know what arrangements they would make with police and fire on whether to keep the buildings open or closed in extreme weathers. But I know in Cleveland, because we have our recreation department and they're part of the city staff, then they have like certain hours that they work. And so anything else that would be considered over, then it would be who would be compensating them for the overtime that is going to be drawn from them working after hours. And so I think that that's one of the issues that we have to make sure that if they're going to put a plan together, that they have the right plan to make sure that communities who are unhoused or who are currently not able to stay in their homes, because we have a lot of people like me. I have an old home, and so I don't have air conditioning. And so on those days when it was 100 degrees, I have fans everywhere, and I have a tree canopy in my yard. But for people who don't have that, exactly where do they go? And I think that's part of our faith partners too. For you all, when we talk about resilience as part of our FAB, so we have a faith advisory board. And so if you have a faith leader that is not a member of our FAB, you want them to sign up to be a member of our FAB. So part of that is we want our FAB to be able to have a plan for the people that are in their community, in their congregations, in order for them to go when we have these extreme weather patterns.
Right. If anybody needs a survey in paper, raise your hand. If you have any questions, raise your hand. If you did already fill this out at another event, you do not have to fill it out again.
Thank you. How do you know if your community has a problem with drought or excessive rain?
So Dr. Kelsey Best is looking at that information right now. So you can, there are measures that she can look at through FEMA or national databases in the flooding. I do not know exactly which indices she is looking at, but we can certainly get you into contact with her for that.
Right now, all the communities here in Cleveland and in Northeast Ohio are having a problem with flooding. Last year, we actually, if you can remember last year we had a drought. And so we had a drought in this region. And one of the things that we saw was a drop in the sea levels of the lake. So we saw a drought last year. And if you drive along 422, like I do all the time, going into Warren, into Youngstown, there's a body of water when you're going across 422. I've been going across that body of water for 31 years. Last year, for the first time ever, I actually saw moss. I looked out and I saw the seaweed on the, and I shouldn't have seen that because it should have been water. And so now when I go past, so we've had so much water that it is literally, the water is all the way up to the highway level. So that means that if we continue to get the rain that we get, it's going to eventually come across 422. So anybody know what I'm talking about going across 422? That you look over now and you can literally touch the water. And last year, I couldn't see the water for the first time in 31 years. So we know that we've had some extreme weather patterns in this area. Yes, Reverend?
This is a different question that wasn't on the screen. I was wondering if the spaceships affecting our ozone is affecting our weather. Just want to put that to you, see what you thought about it. Thank you.
So we know that anytime that we have something that goes up into the clouds, particularly our space ships and some of the other things that we have some problems around our ozone. Dr. Dover has been working on some things there, so I'm going to let him answer the rest of that. We talked about that earlier today.
I'm privileged to live in Bracknell, and I have neighbors in Collinwood and Glenville, and they all suffer from low air quality because of the freeways, which could probably also historically contribute to lead poisoning, which Bracknell is not taken seriously enough, in some of its older housing. But the other issue that's concerned me about this is, I put down another, jet fuel exhaust. Jet fuel exhaust, the people, those jet planes that fly in to land at Lakefront Airport, at very low altitudes. I mean, just a few hundred feet above our high-rise condos, noise, jet fuel just spewing all over the neighborhood, and it affects the whole area there. And so that's a concern. Of course, flooding is a problem, heat is a problem. Those of us who are privileged to have air conditioning, it's not as much of a problem. The flight or yeah. Well, I think just in general, instead of having high speed rail, we have jets everywhere. I don't just want to move the jets to the county airport or to Parma. I think we just need to cut back on jet traffic in general.
So in East Cleveland, a lot of the train overpasses, they flood like where cars can't go under from between Euclid and St. Clair. I would say that's the district that they're going under.
Sally, do you have anything else you want to?
Okay, so is there anything else before we wrap up? Anybody else have any last comments they want us to hear as we're trying to take this feedback, map it with our maps, try to help develop the action plans with the faith leaders advisory boards? Anything? We got one here.
This is just a comment. I thought it was kind of ironic that we are here in this location, and as I came down the parking garage, along the rails was a lot of sawdust and construction, which bothers my breathing. And even here, I'm struggling to breathe. So to pick this location with all this construction going around, and we're here talking about healthy living, I just thought it was ironic that we were here. Thank you.
Yep. Do you want to talk about number 3?
I live in the Ohio City neighborhood, which is just a little bit west of downtown. And we have very active block club groups. And it seems to me that if this coalition of organizations worked with Tremont, Ohio City, Detroit Shoreways, we have actually a lot of poor people that live in those neighborhoods, or low income people. And I think I worry, and recently during this heat wave we had, there were a lot of people that lost their power. So there are a lot of homes without any electricity. But more than that, there are lots of homes that are not air conditioned. A lot of older people living. And it seems to me the block clubs would be a good way, one, to find out who in those block clubs are at risk, to identify them, and to have the block clubs take the lead in making sure to check on those people, to make sure they're okay, and to figure out some kind of plan for that block club when there are these extreme measures, whether it's an extreme winter event or extreme heat event or a rain event or whatever. But that's a wonderful resource that should be tapped into.
Yeah, that's an excellent comment, and I know down by Columbus too, a lot of the churches down there have a similar theme. So if maybe there's a way that they can collaborate, is there any other collaborations that you guys can think of that need to be involved in these areas? Yeah, go.
I have been on several field trips with students in CMSD. I'm a kind of sort of retired school nurse, sort of. And what I've noticed is there are quite a few students who, like over here at John Hay, some of those students, I went to some kind of STEM conference downtown at the Huntington building with them on a field trip. They knew way more about, I didn't know what I was looking at. They knew what they were looking at. It might be a good idea to involve some of these students, junior high and high school, because even when we went to Put-in-Bay and they were digging around literally in the lake trying to find little things to put under the microscope and look at, there are a lot of children who are interested. Field trips where we went camping, and some of the kids, one child said he realized he'd rather be outside in the woods than on Fortnite on his phone playing Fortnite. There are kids out here who are ready to learn, and we need to be able to pass the torch because we're getting older and we can set all this stuff up if we want to, and we don't have anything here. to come and pick up the torch, or So I think we need to, or whoever needs to think in terms of getting some of the children involved because they want to be. There are those who really want to be. So I just wanted to, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with those necessarily, but it kind of does.
Yeah, I think that definitely applies to number three for sure is collaborations, right? And that is something that we have heard in our other community conversations as well. That is really important. And Yavanka, I think you probably have some stuff to add about that and workforce development, right?
So we know we have some young people that are part of the Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition, particularly the YOU students. They're part of our summer program. So we have, and we also have some students that are now physicians that came through our program. So we've been doing some great work of trying to get some students involved in our efforts to talk about structural, social, environmental, and behavioral determinants of health. So that is something that's important to us. So we haven't forgotten it. And the other thing is that I'm probably, between me and Zena, we're the oldest ones in the office. So we have a bunch of young people that are there running the other programs. Like our resilience coordinators, they're all in their 20s. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're teaching them to be able to carry this torch because I'm somebody's grandmother. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're continuing on this work.
Okay, so for item number 3, we have a beautification committee that we've organized for the east side of Cleveland, greater Cleveland. And we are having what we call the beautification committee meetings. We've had one here at the Martin Luther King Library. And I think that we have a Facebook group as well for students or adults who are interested in joining a street club, block club. We help organize their street club, block club. We're working with the the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, so people can request trees for their street if they want them. That is what we are organizing for. I did take the lead from Yavanka. She did teach me how to navigate with the environmental part for the community. So that's where I ended up organizing with the beautification committee here on the east side of Cleveland, which is open for all residents. The tree canopies are a forerunner for us. That's why I was saying if anyone needed trees, we have trees from, I believe, do Dr. Brand still have trees?
I know we have some in this particular project. I know Dr. Brand has some.
Okay.
Also one of the agencies that we're supporting.
Right. So we are, yes, and yes, you are supporting our tree commission. So I am very happy about that. And I'm very happy to continue these meetings because they're informative.
Oh, and in Akron, if you're coming to the Summit County conversation, we actually are going to give out trees for that day also. So we do have some trees that will be given out in Akron.
Hello, I was just concerned the East Cleveland area, all those abandoned buildings. And that's where I'm looking forward to the help they really, really, really need. Those buildings been there for, they some older than me, and I'm 60. So, knocked down and trees and things built. Yes, they could, right. Yeah, replace it with recreation centers for the youth, and yes, libraries. So much could be put there, and that place been abandoned for so long, and it does need a new update. A new, it just needs some work. Yes, that was my concern because when you drive through that area, I mean, the windows, the place is just It's horrible, and it's been like that for so long.
Yeah, so in the last project, that one with the EPA, we heard a lot of that, especially in East Cleveland as well, and the air quality surrounding that too. So that is something some of the leaders are also aware of. So I think that's what we want to keep hearing, and keep bringing your guys' voices back up to them, and seeing how all of this stuff is related. Just because we're talking about climate doesn't mean we're not talking about air quality or abandoned buildings or whatever else it is impacting your neighborhood. So we want to make sure that your voices are heard.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that about wraps this up. If you want to contact me, Yavanka, make sure that you are, can you go to the next slide? To stay updated with this project and everything that's going on, make sure you're signed up with NeoBHC on their email chains. You can also visit them through social media, Facebook, NeoBHC, Instagram as well. That's great ways to get the youth involved too. So spread the word to your family and friends. We'll be at a lot of these other events. We have 7 more left now. These are running through until pretty much through July. And I'll pass it over to Yavanka. And thank you guys so much for coming. It's very helpful for us because we sit with data, we analyze this. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's impactful or place-based to what is happening to your community. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming. I know that you all have 2 sheets, a couple sheets. One of them is a survey that Katie gave you, so we want to make sure that you turn it in, whether you turn it in to her or whether you turn it in to us. We'll make sure that she gets it. The other is that you have a survey around the air purifiers. So make sure that you turn that in to us so that we can give you a desktop air purifier. So everybody's going to be able to get a desktop air purifier. So we want to make sure that you have that. And then what's the other sheet that you have? We have all the free things that are on the table. So make sure there's a bunch of vegetable seeds over there. So like it's easy to grow cilantro. It's easy to grow chives. Like it's a bunch of different seeds over there. So grow those. And then for our program, if you want to be involved with the CAB, the Community Leaders Advisory Board, make sure that you let us know. If you want to be involved with the FAB, make sure that you let us know. And Dr. Bias, do you want to say something? Turn everything in to Zena, who's right here at the desk, okay? And she's going to give you a gift too, also for attending.
Thank you so much, Ivanka. I won't hold you very long. My name is Kim Bias, and I'm with the Center for Health Affairs that you may know, but we changed our name to WellLink. We've been around for 111 years, and we focus on healthcare. We're conducting a 25-question survey, 3 of them that deal with climate change and the impact of climate change on populations. The others include transportation, housing, food, and veterans and behavioral health issues. The reason for this 25-question survey for the 10 counties that Ivanka and Northeast Ohio Black Healthcare Coalition serve is to understand what is the current situation around housing, food, transportation, and climate change. With that knowledge, we can help inform program decisions, funding decisions, policy changes. And so to help us, we would love to have you use a Survey Monkey tool that's available using the QR code. And if you don't want to do that, we have paper surveys that you can fill out and send to me. So they're both on the table. One is just a flyer. You can use the Survey Monkey link, or you can take the actual survey with you and send it back to me. And it would be very helpful with this information to be able to help with our government officials, with organizations serving transportation, food, housing, and environmental issues, okay? So thank you so much. Thank you, Ivanka.
Thank you all so much for coming. We truly appreciate it. Make sure that you get the things off the table, turn in everything so that you can get your air purifier. If you want another lunch or water, there's something that's still left on the table, so make sure that you take it. Sonia, thank you for coming out today. Have a safe drive home, everybody. And if you think of something that later on after this, send it out to us too.